Right. So Paul Morphy was the first unofficial world chess champion.
Okay.
And yeah, and so he's notable for a lot of reasons, one of which is because he's from New Orleans. So like Bobby Fischer, he's the only, world champion that we've had from the United States. He's unofficial, but I guess he was, unbeatable at the time. This is in 1858 that he played this game. And this is just there's a cool story behind this. So he's at an opera house, and these two, this Count and the Duke of Brunswick, want to play chess with him during the opera. So they get a chess set and they start playing, and it's both of these guys versus Paul Morphy, the American master. And when I heard this story is that Morphy was like annoyed because he had to like look behind his shoulder to watch the opera. But anyway, he crushed them. He's most noted, I think, for like classical chess. So he develops really quickly. He castles, and then he sacrifices material for initiative, for attack. And then he just goes for checkmate. So he's a lot of fun to watch. So we're going to use this game as a way to see how he utilizes pins.
Okay.
Remember, you don't always want to capture the pinned piece. Sometimes you want to put pressure on the pinned piece. So we have Paul Morphy has the white pieces.
Okay.
All right, and the Count and the Duke have black. 2045 normal chess so far, knight f3, and black goes pawn d6. This is the Philidor, which I don't think a lot of people play anymore because it blocks in this bishop a bit. So what have we talked about before as a good way to defend this pawn after knight f3? Do you remember?
I guess the bishop.
You can use your bishop. Are you saying like bishop d6?
Well, the knight. I guess you'd use a knight.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to use the knight on c6 because when you develop the knight to the happy square, you're not blocking in any of your center pawns. You're not blocking in your bishops. You're not blocking anybody. And the knight both defends the center and attacks the center with this knight c6 move, right? You put your bishop on d6, yes, you're guarding your pawn, but this bishop doesn't really have a future on a new diagonal. He also blocks this pawn, which kind of blocks this bishop. So it's just not as much freedom for your pieces. So knight c6 is more common, but in this game, the Philidor was played. And how would white take complete control over the center here? What do you think white should play?
Well, it could play the bishop.
Oh yeah, we've done that a lot, right? With bishop c4. You could play bishop c4. That move happens a little bit later. What Paul Morphy does is he wants to attack the center right away. So he uses a pawn to create a pawn wall.
Okay. So does he do pawn to d3?
You can go even farther than d3.
d4?
Yeah, pawn d4, very good. Right in the center of the board. It's protected, it's attacking. So here black goes bishop g4. And what is the bishop doing on g4?
It is skewering the knight to the queen.
It is doing something. Is it a skewer though? Or is it the other one?
Oh, it's a pin.
Yeah, it's a pin. What's the difference?
Is it a relative pin?
Yes, very good. It's a relative pin. What's the difference between a pin and a skewer?
The skewer is forcing the more powerful piece to move out of the center. And so this is a pin because it's a less important piece.
Very good. Yes, the piece in the middle is less valuable than the piece at the end of this line of three pieces. Exactly right. Very good. Okay, so here white captures, and if black were to immediately capture back, can the knight? Yeah, can it? Can the knight capture the pawn here? Or should it?
It can, but then it leaves the queen open.
Very good. Yeah, because the knight is pinned, you do not want to move the knight. In fact, black will be able to mate in one move because of this opening, right? So what does black play here? Maybe Leave the bishop, actually. What could you do for mate in 1?
You to use the bishop to mate.
We're going to leave the bishop as a helping piece. What other piece could black use to create checkmate
It
here?
could use the queen.
Yes. Where does she go?
Could drop the queen all the way down to, I guess D1.
Yeah, definitely D1, right? And this is checkmate.
Wow.
Bishop helps
So
protect the guy. No, oops, that would be terrible, right? Paul Morphy did not want to fall for that trick, right? So, and by the way, this is if pawn takes pawn. You cannot use the knight. But what you could do is trade queens first.
Oh, there we go.
Now you're pinning a nothing, and so the knight can take. So black had to, in this position, after pawn takes, black had to play bishop takes on f3.
Yeah, I was watching somewhere where some players sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they have like a different type of strategy where they sacrifice some of the important pieces and then use their pawns to kind of do the dirty work at the end of the game.
Yeah, pawns can be extremely valuable and extremely useful because they are the only ones that can promote. So definitely, you can sacrifice pieces for pawns. Absolutely.
Well, in a couple of games, there were some times where, we'd get distracted with some of these major captures, and then I would sneak my pawns up diagonally so I could capture, and the opponent wouldn't even recognize.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a surprise for both of us. Like I didn't even know, but that's kind of something cool that you can do.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so you have white in this position, and you want to capture this bishop. Do you use your queen or your pawn?
I'd probably use the pawn, I guess.
Why?
I don't know. That's just a guess.
I think a lot of people would agree with you, but it's not the best choice. So if you use your pawn and you are planning on castling over here later, what do you notice about the king?
Oh, I see. It can't castle yet.
Well, even if the bishop is out of the way, what I'm saying is when the king does eventually castle and lands on the square G1, what do you notice about this file?
It's not protected.
Right, it's open. Yeah, it's open. So you wouldn't want to castle over there. So that's one reason. Also, these pawns are doubled.
Okay.
And so doubled pawns are just a little bit weaker, usually a little bit weaker because it's just hard for them to move up the board safely because they don't guard each other anymore.
Okay.
He uses his queen because he's developing a piece and it's completely safe to do so. His queen is not able to get captured. I think a lot of people use the less valuable piece with by default, but you don't
and then
have
it's also the queen's also protected by the pawn there.
Right. Yeah, she's protected. So a queen is an attacking piece, and Morphy loves to attack. And so black can now capture back. What is this queen aiming at right now?
It's aiming at the pawn.
Mm-hmm. Which pawn? What square?
It is it F7?
Yes, it's F7. And F7, do you remember what we talked about with F7?
Yeah, that's the most vulnerable square on the board.
Exactly right. It's the weakest square on the board. So
now, I have a question.
Sure.
I know that typically white has the advantage, and it's said that I've heard that a lot of people who start with white can have an easier time winning the game. But if there's 64 spaces, right?
Yeah.
And there's 32 pieces.
Oh yeah.
I guess I was wondering why that spot is more vulnerable than that same spot on the opposite side of the board.
What do you mean by the opposite side of the board? F2?
Yeah.
No, F2 is white's weakest square.
Okay, I see. So it's both for each side.
Yes, okay. Symmetrically, this F2 pawn is weak for white, and this F7 square is weak. Yeah, I think white has a very tiny advantage. At your level, my level, not so much, but at the top levels, yeah, because white gets to go first, but that's about it. It's not, the board is completely symmetrical, so yeah, F7 and F2 are both weak spots.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be like a terribly hard math question. I'm glad I got that one. All right. So you're like 64 squares, 32 pieces. I was like, oh no. Anyway, all right, so we have F7. How are you going to attack F7 again and develop a piece at the same time. White to
Um,
move here.
would it be the queen?
So she's already aiming at f7, right? But if she were to just capture, what would happen?
The king would capture her.
Exactly. So we don't want that. So we need to bring out another piece to attack f7 again.
Okay. So I guess the bishop. We take the bishop all the way up to G G5 or
So we want to attack this square, which is a white square.
oh wait. Okay, so we'd use the queen.
She's already developed, right?
Yeah, so we.
What other white piece can come out that's on a white square?
5. We got the bishop on the other side.
There we go.
So we've got F. We go all the way up to let's see here. C4.
Excellent. Bishop C4. And now there are two attackers on F7.
I'm still memorizing these squares.
Oh, that's all right.
Looking at my chart.
You got it. Do you see the letters and numbers on my board at the bottom along the side, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So you might be able to use those as well to figure out the names of the squares. But yeah, bishop C4 is correct. Now you have two attackers on F7. Black has only one defender of F7. So white is threatening checkmate in 1, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
immediately. Paul Morphy, develop, attack, sacrifice, checkmate. But okay, this one's stoppable, right? I mean, it's not the end.
There's something called the scholar's mate. What is that?
Yes. Well, that's pretty much what we're looking at. The scholar's mate happens in only 4 moves, though, but it's on the same exact square. Yeah. We'll do that one next time, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Let's finish our Morphy game. I saw that
watching the Queen's Gambit on Netflix.
Yeah. I love it. Queen's Gambit. Yes. Well, right. So F7 is the target square and the scholar's mate as well. And it's actually just this very setup. But here Black can stop the threat. So Black played knight F6 so that the queen can't jump over to get to F7. And if she tries to go to H5, for example, to get in diagonally, then the knight can just take the queen, right?
Yep.
So he does another cool move with his queen, and he goes to B3. So now he's behind the bishop, but they're working together in a battery. And guess where they're both headed?
They're both headed to the pawn there.
Yeah, F7 again, right? And in fact, the queen is also threatening the hanging pawn on B7, although Morphy doesn't care for material so much. He's really focused on this target square. So now Black has to guard it again. Now we have 2 defenders of the pawn and 2 attackers on the pawn. So the pawn is safe. 2 attackers, 2 defenders. So we don't capture it.
Okay.
Instead, Morphy continues to develop his pieces. Knight C3. Also guarding the pawn on E4. And now Black goes C6. So what Black is doing here is trying to kick away this bishop, which is really annoying because it's attacking Black's weak square. But by playing C6, this is harder for the knight to develop to the happy square, and it's not really helping Black to get castled. So again, White develops with a tempo. Where can White go to develop and make a pin?
Could the bishop go to E6?
Let's see. And if it were to go to E6,
oh wait,
what would
sorry,
it
no, that's not right.
Okay. What white piece has not yet developed?
The bishop could go to G5.
Excellent. Very nice. Bishop G5, relative pin. Good. So when you develop and attack at the same time, or develop and make a pin, you gain a tempo because you're doing 2 things at the same time.
Okay.
All right, here's Black trying to kick away the bishop. Now here's where Morphy's like, okay, I'm completely developed. I can castle on either side of the board whenever I want to. And I've got all of these pieces out and attacking. So Morphy goes for a sacrifice. And here's where you were talking about getting rid of a piece for some pawns, because
Okay.
yeah, these pawns are being annoying, and they're also in line with the king. So Morphy eliminates them with knight takes b5. He sacrifices his knight. And
Okay.
after pawn takes, bishop takes, check.
Oh, and then the king's in check there.
Right, exactly. So here Black has to think, how do I get out of check? If I move the king, what can Black never do if he moves the king?
He can't castle.
Exactly, you can't castle.
Yay, I
If
got that right.
you're right. Yeah, little review session. If the queen blocks, what will Black do?
Can
Sorry, what
capture
will White do? But yeah, capture the queen.
with the bishop. Yeah.
Exactly. And if this knight blocks, what will White do?
It looks like it can attack both the knight and the queen from either side.
What move do you think White should play? If knight here, what will White capture? Do you remember what this knight was?
That was the relative pin.
Yes. Okay, so what will White do? What will White capture?
The queen.
Yeah, White just captures the queen. So we can't move the queen here. We can't block with the knight. So Black plays knight b to d7 instead. And what do you notice now?
Okay, so now we have an absolute pin.
Exactly. He just put himself into a pin. So now White has 2 pins on the board.
Oh, wow. Huh.
Yeah, I know. It's such a cool game. So there are 2 pins on the board. And here White, Paul Morphy, wants to put pressure on the pinned piece. So here he again gains a tempo because his move will develop and put pressure on the pinned piece, attacking this one again. What do you think White could do?
I'm not sure.
What has White not yet done? So remember in the beginning of the game, you want to do 3 things, CDC, right? Center,
Castle,
develop.
develop, center, castle, develop.
Yes, center, develop, and castle. So what do you think White could play?
Well, White could capture the knight.
You can capture, but sometimes you don't want to capture a pinned piece. You want to put pressure on it, and then you'll be able to capture it later because you'll have more attackers on that piece. If you capture it immediately, then the pin is gone, and all of a sudden you're no longer attacking. So we're going to keep the pressure on, and we're going to use one of the pieces we haven't developed yet. So White hasn't castled yet, right? Which side of the board should White castle, queen side or king side? Which one will help develop?
I think taking the king to A1.
So when we castle, how many steps does the king go?
2.
So the king will land on C1, right?
I mean, sorry, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, you're right. King C1, castle, and the rook lands on D1. What is the rook doing now?
So now the rook is got the knight in his sights.
Yes, exactly. The rook is putting pressure on the pinned piece. So now Black is like, oh my goodness, I can't use this knight to help defend. My queen is too valuable, so I'll play rook d8. And let's look at Black's pieces. Can the king move anywhere?
No.
No, and this rook is stuck defending. Can the knight move anywhere?
No.
No, he's absolutely pinned. This knight, not going anywhere. Queen, she doesn't have too many squares available. Bishop, not going anywhere. And the rook, not really going anywhere.
Wow,
So,
it's so complex.
Yeah, I know, and he makes it look so easy, right? But what is he doing? He's just developing and attacking.
Okay.
All right, so here is where White, Paul Morphy, realizes there's just one piece left that he hasn't used. He hasn't developed what piece?
The queen.
Well, developed just means has come out from its home square.
Okay.
And so we're talking about pieces, not pawns. The queen
Okay.
has developed,
Okay.
which white piece has not moved from its home square.
The rook.
Yeah, it's the rook on h1. It'd be great if we could just like pick it up and place it on d2, but it'll take a few moves for that to happen, and it's not very forcing to just sort of slowly creep around. So Morphy plays another sacrifice in order to get this rook into play. So he goes rook captures on d7 now. Again, the knight can't take without losing the queen. If the queen captures, bishop takes queen. King is not allowed to capture. Black goes rook captures d7. Now we've captured with the rook, so we're down a little bit of material. So we don't necessarily want to immediately get that material back because then the pin is gone. So what do you do to a pinned piece?
You.
It's all the P words.
Yeah.
Put.
You put pressure on it.
Yes,
right?
you put pressure on the pinned piece. I tell the little kids, I go PP on the PP, and they just think it's hilarious.
All right, well, that's good. I needed
right,
a mnemonic.
And then you remember a mnemonic, and then you remember it forever. Yeah, it's very silly, but it does stick with you. So anyway, so how do we put pressure now on the pinned rook?
So then I guess we would move our rook again.
Yeah.
Okay, so the rook to d1.
Right, rook to d1, excellent. So now we're threatening the rook. So black is like, I'm terrified. Let's trade queens. And of course, white doesn't want to trade queens. White wants to play more forcing moves. So white goes check. Now the knight is no longer pinned to the queen, so the knight captures back.
Okay.
This actually leads to a checkmate. So again, white is not going to trade queens, but we should notice here that the bishop is now seat belting the black king in. So he can't move. So what we would love to do is be able to attack the back rank in order to make a checkmate. But we can't just like fly through the knight, to get to, unfortunately, to get to d8. So your first move, this is a mate in 2. I want to see if you can figure this out with that hint. Your job is to lure the knight away so that you can play rook d8.
So would I
what do you think?
Would I move the bishop up to f6, or is that the wrong?
And does that, well, this bishop is being very useful, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
So we can sacrifice something, but if we were to sacrifice this bishop, then we would no longer be able to attack, that square and that square.
Okay.
So we're going to look for forcing moves here. Remember, forcing moves are checks, threats, and captures.
Okay. So would we use the queen?
Yes. Where does she go?
The queen to capture the queen?
Does that lure the knight away?
Oh, I see. Okay, so then we would use the queen all the way up to b8.
Excellent. Queen b8, check. It's the most forcing move on the board, right?
I see.
There's only one option for black here. What's the only thing black can do to get out of danger?
Take the knight, capture the queen with the knight.
Exactly. And now you're free to do what move?
Now we can use the rook and take the rook all the way to d8.
d8, there it is, checkmate. And you've got a helper mate with the bishop helping to protect the rook.
Oh, okay, I see, yeah.
Yeah, so that bishop is super useful, right? He can't move, the king can't move nor capture, can't block.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I was just thinking. I was thinking, well, the king can move, but he can't move because of that bishop.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, super useful bishop. So in this game, it's kind of hilarious because Paul Morphy has way fewer pieces, fewer points, less material, but checkmate always wins.
Yeah.
So this is just a great game that shows how you can utilize a pin and take advantage of it instead of just immediately capturing the piece or even trying to get material. If you can get the initiative and start an attack, then you can really use those pins to your advantage. Morphy used it to develop all of his pieces and then sacrifice and win.
Okay, that's cool.
Do you have any questions about that game?
No, it's interesting. I mean, obviously it's such a more advanced way of playing than I'm than I'm playing at right now. So there's so many layers to look at.
Right. Well, we can always copy from the greats.
Yeah.
You know, you can always feel free to use their moves. And that's why I'm showing it, right? To show how he gained a tempo and how he pinned and how he put pressure on the pin piece and especially developed all of his pieces.
So that's interesting. So they saved the notation from this game from.
Well, that was actually a question I had. I don't know if he memorized the game and wrote it down afterward, or if Count Isouard was busy notating while they were watching the opera. I don't know. But yeah, we have a record of it, thankfully.
That's very cool. Yeah.
All right, before we go, I'm going to send this to you for homework, but we'll do the first one together to make sure that it's clear. So this is an article on Chess Kid, piercing pins,
Okay.
meet in one. And this is going to help you to see how pins, you can leave the pin on the board in order to make a checkmate. All right. So let's just do the first one together. White to move. First, identify the pin.
Okay, we've got the rook pinned to the king.
Excellent. The bishop here on d5 pins the black rook to the king. Therefore, the black rook cannot move. It's absolutely pinned. What white piece can you use then instead to create a checkmate?
The rook. You can use the rook to e8.
Awesome. Rook e8 is mate. So the black rook cannot come back and block because it would be illegal. So we have a back rank mate. Fantastic. So these will get increasingly more difficult, but there are 8 of them, I think. So I'm going to send that one to you. Do you have any questions for today?
No, it was interesting. That was interesting kind of going over that, just hearing the narrative of that particular game and all that. That's cool.
Yeah, for sure. All right, great. Well, I will see you soon, and just let me know if you have any questions.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I guess it'll be not this Thursday because it's Thanksgiving, but the one after that.
Yes. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you too. Have a good one.
Have fun in Asheville. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
All right, cool. Okay, well, text me if you have any questions or if you're playing any games and something comes up. Otherwise, keep pinning and having fun with it. See you later.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jessica.
Okay, bye.
Bye.